uncut and on the fly. Earlier this morning, I did an on-camera video, which you'll probably see before this, kind of talking about the fact that the Netherlands decided to outdo China and Australia by not only releasing some episodes early, but releasing the entire rest of the season. That includes the two-parter and the epilogue series finale episode. But speaking of the epilogue finale, there is something that I'm pretty sure a lot of you know about by now, but in case you don't, there are going to be spoilers. So after I pause it here, I'm going to give you time to think. Do you want to listen to the spoilers, or do you want to wait? So right about now, about the minute mark, I'm about to pause, and it's up to you. You ready? Here we go. Okay, so for those of you that waited to the minute mark to decide whether or not you want to stick around, if you are still around, warning, there are spoilers. But it's basically by now, if you are sticking around, you may either know about this already, or you heard about it through word of mouth, you've gone to message boards, Facebook group, Twitter pages, as well as you probably saw the episode already. And that is basically the last episode itself being the last problem. And the reason I bring this up is because of the fact of the setting that most of it takes place in. You see, the setting it takes place in is something that not a lot of people like to see when a show closes out its series. That being, of course, the future. Now, I'm sure a lot of people are cool with it if, let's say, a future-like story episode takes place in a spin-off. Thus, by taking place in a spin-off, you kind of give it closure there without kind of interrupting or ruining what made the series special to begin with. A prime example for this is one of my personal favorite JLU, Justice League Unlimited episodes called Epilogue. It's an episode that takes place in the timeline, if not about maybe several years, 30 years, 60 years in the future. And it takes place, like I said, in the Batman Beyond timeline. And it pretty much gives us a decent wrap-up to the Batman Beyond series. It touches upon Batman's time with the Justice League and a problem he was dealing with. It deals with Terry McGinnis wanting the truth, getting the truth, stuff like that. If you haven't seen it, I would recommend checking it out. But the reason I bring that up is because a lot of people would point to an episode like that in a series like that as being the best way to, close off a series, give it closure by putting an episode like that takes place in the future in a spin-off. However, it seems to me that a lot of people don't like it when they decide to end the series with a future episode that's basically an epilogue that's in the same continuity, but it takes place 5 to 10, 15 years later. Not a lot of people like that because a lot of things happen. One of the things that I think is very prominent that happens is the change of the characters in design. Some of the characters somewhat stay the same, some of them change. And sometimes the change is good, sometimes the change is not so good. A prime example of this is Twilight herself. Now, we have seen on the internet throughout the run of the show what she would look like, once she hits full alicorn status, a la Celestia status. We were always wondering, what will she look like? What will she be? Well, pretty much in this episode, we got the idea of what she would look like. And a lot of people were not too happy at the fact that she was basically, as they put it, a near Celestia recoloring or redesign. Basically, a lot of people point out that they just took the model of Celestia, kind of changed it up a little bit, put in a little bit of Twilight's highlights, if you will, Twilight's designs, make her so that people would know, oh, that's Twilight, and just give her Celestia's design on top of that. Not a lot of people were thrilled with it. They weren't. I mean, some people were. Some people actually are okay with it, but it's more along the lines that that's one of the things fans don't like about these kind of episodes, is the fact that you change a character. Sometimes you change them because they grow, sometimes, physically. Sometimes you change them, because they're older, stuff like that. And Twilight is basically in that status where a lot of people look at her as being a Celestia redesign or recoloring or some kind of a hybrid. But it's not just Twilight either. We have, of course, Spike. And a lot of people pretty much pictured Spike to be maybe what he looked like in this episode. However, some still were disappointed with it. And I know some people are going to come on the comment section and be like, well, Brian, you can't, please everybody. They can't please everybody. And that's true. That is true, but there are a lot of people that just didn't like Spike's design in this. Now, that's right now. I can't say when it officially debuts here in the U.S. what others, hopefully those that probably avoided this, are going to say. I can't really say anything. But we'll have to wait and see on that part. But it's not just Spike either. You have the rest of the main 7. You have Applejack, you have Pinkie Pie, you have Rarity, you have Fluttershy, you have Rainbow Dash. And all of them do look about the same, but there's one thing that really ticks off a lot of people, and that is the fact that they're older. I mean, and the fact that not only are they older, but they take on the designs, but they take on the designs, they take on the similarities of those around them, or those they've been influenced by. For example, some people may have not noticed this, but Applejack, looking older, has the handkerchief that Granny Smith had. So kind of implying that in this timeline, Granny Smith is already long gone. But also, her hair is kind of frizzed out a little bit like Granny Smith. So she's taking on the grandmother role now with Big Mac, Sugar Belle, and their kid. She's kind of taking that role on. And then you take a look at Rainbow Dash, and Rainbow Dash pretty much is now the captain, obviously the leader of the Wonderbolts, and she has a hair design similar to Spitfire. And then you take a look at Pinkie Pie, and Pinkie Pie pretty much, has candy stuff in her hair. I guess it's decoration or whatever. And she obviously is taking after Mrs. Cake. So she's got Mrs. Cake look to her, with a little bit of a bun in her hair, high bun, I should say, twirly like cupcake like bun in her hair to kind of take after her mom. But you get the idea. Then you have Rarity, who has silver in her mane, in her tail, but she pretty much looks the same. Except she's older too. And then you have Fluttershy, who's pretty much, her hair design has changed up a little bit, where she's got a bun. She still has hair on the side, and she's a little older. And I think that's the one thing, honestly, that a lot of fans didn't like about this, or don't like about these kind of episodes that close out a series as good as Friendship is Magic. It's the fact that basically you've changed the characters up and you made them look older than what they were. But here's the one thing some people seem to overlook. There's always a purpose, and that purpose is to help tell the story of back when they were as we knew them. And that's what Last Problem does. It tells a story through flashback to the current timeline that we know of them getting ready for Twilight's coronation as the new ruler of Equestria. That's why basically you have the characters put in this position, put into this kind of scenario, in this kind of environment. Not many people, like I said, are going to agree with the idea of any show going this route, as good as it is. I mean, let's be honest. Everybody loves Adventure Time, right? What did Adventure Time do to officially close out the series? They did something similar, right? Did people enjoy it? Maybe, maybe not. And again, it goes back to what I said earlier. I think it's how you do it. I think it's how you present the story. And I believe people would rather prefer maybe some kind of a one-shot deal, like a special or a mini-movie or full-length movie that takes place in the future and utilizes the future versions of the main group or the main characters for one last mission or battle to kind of give the series closure. Or, like I said earlier, they'd rather it take place in an episode of a spin-off series so that you don't kind of basically throw away or basically make the series feel like, something different, or make it feel like it's losing its identity. And I believe that's why fans right now are kind of mixed about this last episode and the premise it's gone through with basically the future setup. But here's the one thing I like about it. I like the fact that it does have a future setup, and I can understand where people kind of come from. But the way it ends, and I don't want to, and again, this hopefully people that avoided the spoilers are not listening. But basically, the way it ends is you have Twilight's student, who is basically the Twilight to her, that Twilight was to Celestia. You have her student going off with her friends, who are different species, if you will, a Kirin, a Griffin, you name it. And basically you're setting the table of saying, oh, here's the new generation. Here's the new generation, the new elements of harmony. So, and honestly, I like the fact that leaves the door open to interpretation. And you also got to look at the fact that when the show began, it opened with a book, right? The Once Upon a Time deal. And then the way it closes is just like with any kind of novelization. It closes with an epilogue, and that's what this was. It's like the final chapter was the two-parter beforehand. The epilogue chapter was Last Problem. And there's a lot of novels out there, believe it or not, legitimate novels that do exactly what Friendship is Magic did. So whether or not anybody can come out and rightfully say that Hasbro and the creative staff did the right thing, that Josh Haber did the right thing, whatever, that's up to their interpretation. That's up to their, thoughts and everything. But I'm going to basically tell it to you like this. I'm going to tell it to you like this. To me, I may have not understood it, but I liked what I saw. I enjoyed it. And I can only imagine how emotional it's going to get when we get the English version. But like I said, it's a good series. To me, it's a good ending. I'm going to put it that way. However anybody else feels about it, that in the future, that's up to them. But I felt it was good. So I'm going to pause right now. And when I get back, hopefully in the description, people will be able to know when to turn up the volume, because the spoilers are over. All right. At 13 minutes 53 seconds, you should have been able to turn back the volume, because spoilers are over. But again, here's the thing. It's like I said in the spoilers. I have no problem with an episode like this. And I get people don't like, episode or series ending with these kind of episodes. But to me, this was probably the best way and best example of having to do it correctly. But what do you all think? What do you all think down below? Comment if you like. Let me know what your thoughts were if you did see the final episode of MLP, if you did see it. If you didn't, fine. You want to wait till its official release. That's cool. But let me know what you all think, though, that probably heard about it, saw clips, watched the episode, whatever. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts overall of a series ending its run with an episode like this and a premise like this? Let me know down below. Comment if you like, and I'll talk to y'all later.